What's good, YouTube? And welcome to the end of that terrible argument. Yu-Gi-Oh's dying, it has to not be so hot. John's saying when record sales, it's gotta be inflated numbers. Magic's down, Pokemon's down, Yu-Gi-Oh has to be 2,580 duelists showed up and out over to the YCS in Germany. And the representation, the coverage by EU, kudos. I think they're in round 8 or 9 right now at the time of recording. But looking through here, 30% tier limit, I've gotta imagine that'll be represented even higher in Top Cut, 14% Sprite, 10% Flunder. With that many duels, that's over 250 Flunder duelists. Fly, Flunder, fly! And then you've got 5% Branded, 3% Exo Sister, 3% Tier Limit, 2% Draco Slayer, 35% Other. I've got to wonder what's in there and if any of it will be able to top. But why does this pertain to Market Watch? It shows it's not just vendor hot potato people, buying out cards to sell to others and it's all super inflated numbers. No, this many duelists willing to travel out, spend that kind of money, get over there and play Yu-Gi-Oh when you don't have that 1,600 person event cap. It is so awesome to see how many people are excited, and again, one of the best covered events on top of that. But what's not doing so hot is Battles of Legend pre-sales. These numbers are down bad, even over on TCG Player. Of course, independent vendors are selling a lot of these cards cheaper, but actually, access code Talker is starting to sink down under the price Tier 0 has. And Tier 0 has had their pre-sales out since, I think, yesterday, and they're not sold out of a ton of things. Surprisingly, the Crystal Beast deck core is the first thing that sold out. I would not have guessed that. Like, they have, I think, the Toon Core actually just under what Gamer's Choice had, and it didn't sell out. And they also do seem to think that Toon BLS is above a lot of the sets, so I do agree there that I think a lot of people have been waiting and will be after that one as a collectible, kind of playable card more so than anything. But you have Borreload Savage here at 10, Chaos Space at 8, which starts above where Gamer's Choice was, but I do think it's one of the cards they sold out of first as well. I think a lot of these prices might end up high though, and this set might bottom out for the singles as people really chase after those Starlights. And how much will those Starlights actually be worth if the singles are already bottoming out like this on pre-sale on TCG Player? Usually TCG Player pre-sales are scam, but one thing that is notable is when they actually get super cheap super fast like this, it's usually a sign that the singles are going to be absurdly cheap on release, and access code Talker doesn't even get you a box pack because you have the Gold Series reprint, which helped cap down the price of the single, even though that was shorted. So the question is, what's short printed in here, and how are things actually going to turn out versus pre-sales? Yes, they're still inflated versus other people's pre-sales on TCG Player, but they're coming down fast to reality versus what the other pre-sales are actually on here. Shuffle EN is one I wanted to take note of, though. It's kind of high over on TCG Player. And over here on Tier 0, it's around 350. And I do think it's one of the ones that also sold out earlier on Gamer's Choice. Now, a ton of cards are falling out. We're going to cover that. But first, a couple of cards that have gone up here. We see the Elemental Hero Absolute Zero has crept up over time. I think it's an Edison tech. There's just not the most listings of any copy. And I did not know the Ultra Rare was ever this much, like, insane crazy. I remember the buyouts pushing it up, but I didn't know that it stuck there. And it is very hard to get a near mint copy of the magazine promo of this card. But the next Ultra is out of a Battles of Legends set, and here we see it just consistently go up over time because you don't have to deal with it not being near mint, and it's still Ultra. Baroness also spiked back up, came back down a little, and then has stabilized around the triple digit mark, just above 100, and that's probably because you don't have a clear reprint set where it could be like, what, Ghost 3? Would it just debut as Ghost Rare without a reprint? Like, people are wondering when this will be, / how it will be reprinted. Please don't do a Legendary Duel Season 4, Konami. Come on. After 3 flop, when you started shorting cards, just don't do it. Now, the other one that is a huge conversation topic around right now is Unicorn, with a lot of speculation because it did, start out around $7 and then Fenrir spiked and people said, whoa, wait, this deck gets better. It's one of the few that can fight against tier elements, and then it went up towards 14, 15, and it's really been hanging in here at this this price, it does feel a bit like a Luber to a degree, yet it's in the Ultra slot instead of Secret, so there's a lot more of it, and it's not currently being played so much within the metagame, so the price is propped up on speculation and how it could translate versus how it did in the OCG, but I will say I think the deck is very strong, and I do get why people are after this card, so be aware it's up and could end up going up even further depending on the hype or even towards the release of the new set before we get our hands on it. And then Pre-Preparation of Rights is a card we pointed out got bought out / lower in quantities on a ton of versions recently. Speed Duel Tournament Pack 4 has a super rare coming out. I don't know that that will help really cool the price all that much, but just be aware that there's another version of this floating around soon if you were thinking about picking up a copy. Mavens and Megatons. I want to cover something that I haven't in those yet so much, and that's penny stonks. What are the top 5 out of each set that I would personally go for? While I'm not a financial advisor channel, I don't know the future of card prices, what Konami will do. That reprint was so good, let's do it again with. I do see that Mavens is starting to turn back up in price and start to disappear off the market because it's such a popular set, even though the singles are coming down in price in the set itself for a bit here. A lot of people chasing Pharaoh rares, they don't have the most quantities on the market for what they are, and then on top of it, they just want the cards inside too, and those are bonuses to them. So the number one that I would be after right now is Skill Drain. When I look at the other versions, the next one is the DT version out of Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1, which was, remember, shorted, and that's even bottomed out thanks to the reprint into the, lower regions here by far. Like, look at this, around 4. So I actually probably would go for maybe that version since it's an upgrade, but not everybody likes that DT foiling. And the Ultra in here, people are going to want 3 of these things, right? Like, they're going to be wanting to get all those. That's why I have this over like Harpy's Feather Duster alternate art, because people will be chasing after these in play sets when they're deciding to give them to a deck. And then the next lowest copies are like the commons and rares at 8 to 9. So I just see this going up over time towards 5, towards 6, and I really like it, and I think you should have access to it. Next up, Shiranui Solitaire out of the set is like 30 cents. It's almost treated as a bulk holo, where every single other version of this card is $3+. So 10% for an ultra rare copy. Granted, 2 of the other 3 copies are also ultra rare. Just seems really good and like a no-brainer to me. Zombies are a huge fan favorite, and there's always this cycle of getting zombie support later. Could it get another reprint before that? Yeah, sure, it could, but I think at the price in versus the risk, it's really good to have at least a playset of this. Mizuki holographic on that note. I love zombies, I can't help it, I've said it before. For an ultra holo, the rest of the holos are gold, Duelist Saga, which is divisive, not everybody loves it, and then Secret Rare up at 40. I think that this has a lot of room to end up going up towards like $1, $2, $3 pretty easily over time if there's not another holographic version that ends up, competing with it later. Hero Lives also did have a Secret Rare that came out in the GX box, which is the highest price card out of there at like $5 something, but when we're talking the brand new Ultra Rare, it's around 50 cents, pretty easy to get, and versus every other holographic version, that's, 10% of the cost. So I really like it, and a lot of commons, we're hanging around this price till it's reprint, and I think it's a really good pickup right now. Hero stuff tends to go up over time, and the OG Ultra Rare has a market price of $18. And finally, Pendulum Call, I believe, is the last penny stock I have. I think that's 5. When it comes to this reprint, the other 2 copies, the common out of the structure deck has been $8+ before. The super rare out of Pendulum Evolution, which sat low but then spiked towards $12 at one point, are the only other 2 copies. So while this is super accessible now, people will want multiple copies most likely when they're playing a Pendulum deck. And I do think it's a very good pickup out of here. So those are my top 5 penny stonks out of Mama. Let's go ahead to Megatons, which is more of a complete downswing of a set. So these singles are more likely to be hitting the market for longer, especially if something ends up being super chased out of these Megatons. But a lot of people are ripping them open just to burn and turn, get their money back out, or selling them sealed at close to a loss at this point to just get them out of their hands. My number one pick is Ghost Belle in Prismatic Secret Rare. It's arguably one of the nicest looking versions besides the Starlight, which, you know, the difference between $400 and $4 is very, very big. In fact, it's around more so $3 right now for the Prismatic Secret Rare, and I really like it versus every other cheap holographic version that exists, and I kind of like it more than the OG Secret Rare personally, but not everybody does, right? That's preference. Also, on that note, I know hand trap, easy pick. Ghost Ogre, another format dependent hand trap. A lot of 8's Hollow versions are more competitive and down in price than Ghost Bells, but I still really like this hand trap. It finds its ways into formats, taking care of field pieces or certain combo extenders that end up needing to stay on the board, so I just like to have this for a long term, and it's good to eat cheap staples while you can. They don't stay cheap for a reason most of the time. Lord of the Heavenly Prison is a pretty good card, and I've mentioned this before. I think it will act like Inspector Border, that until it sees another reprint, it will likely slowly go up over time and become harder to get, and people getting these will want 3 of them. So I just really like the prospect of this card because it was a lot more expensive before its reprint, like $20, $30, and getting it for $2 right now when there's only 2 copies doesn't seem so bad. On that note, Small World, instead of Stun for super combo crazy 5-head card, seems really good, and it's almost the same price as its OG Secret Rare, just a bit under there towards market price of $3. I think this card will get broken in again at some point, super combo off at some point, and I just think cards like that usually end up going crazy on the market when they do get figured out, but that's player brain. It has to end up actually doing well in the metagame in order for it to see that future. It's a question more of if than when, or more of a question of when than if to me, because I do think it is a thing that will happen with my player brain, but sometimes those don't actually pan out. Ready Fusion is my final pick here. I know Nibiru didn't make it. Well, the reason Nibiru doesn't make it for me is that the Secret Rare out of Battles of Legend and the Megatons, they're not all that much more in price than the Ultra, and these proportionally would go up way more. I know Nibiru is on a lot of people's list for like penny stonks in the set. I just think the Secret Rares look better and would go up more. Ready Fusion only has 1 other copy, and it's one of those cards that again has that player potential to end up really impacting a metagame. You have tuners out of the extra deck, and at worst, it's always a 1-for-1. You baited a negation, or you got out a tuner and then you went up a combo line. It's pretty much always a 1-for-1 at worst. It's not crazy advantage like Instant Fusion ends up being, but Ready Fusion, still an extremely good card, and I think will have its time one day. But maybe it never ends up being good and gets a common in a structure deck. That's the thing with penny stonks. You have to realize the reality is you're putting time versus the money in, and when you combine that too, that's still, your money could have been doing other things, so keep that in mind. And then also fees, selling, stamps, etc. They end up draining that profit. They're exciting, but don't go overboard on them. Thanks for watching today's Market Watch. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this conversation, and I really do have fun when we go through these and I make my picks. A ton of people have been asking me about these sets, so I feel like it was a good one to go ahead and do today. And the YCS will probably churn out some changes to the market, I imagine, and we'll cover those Monday.